Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Sauce. Continuing on with college football, Week 12, ACC matchup here. Clemson on the road at Pitt. Let's do it.
Welcome to The Sauce. The Sauce. Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
So let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with the pie charts. According to this data, actions coming in on the Clemson side, just over 55% of the tickets, about 75% of the money. Take this data with a grain of salt. So let's match these teams up on the field. We'll start with the Clemson offense. They run a fast pace. Wow. 9th in the country in plays per game, 39th in pass frequency. So they do want to throw the ball with Klubnik, but they can also run it. It's Clemson. They're pretty well rounded. In fact, look at the rushing efficiency numbers here. 10th in yards per carry on the season, 14th in success rate per rush. Passing numbers back at 63rd in yards per pass attempt, 45th in success rate per dropback. As a whole, they're sitting at 19th in yards per play. Matched up against a Pitt defense that, look, we can point at the Pitt offense and say they've fallen off a cliff, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the Pitt defense has really surprised me this year. They lost all 4 defensive linemen. You've probably heard me say this like 4 times already, but they lost all 4 defensive linemen from last year and their D-line coach. So coming into the season, I was like, guys, this Pitt defense isn't going to be able to stop the run. It's been I don't think I've ever been more wrong on a take. Look at their numbers against the run. 8th in yards per carry, 29th in success rate per rush, 39th in effective rush. It's been the strength of their team. The strongest aspect of this Pittsburgh team has been the run defense. So I was so wrong about that. And the Pitt defense as a whole is still standing strong, even though the offense, like I said, has kind of fallen off a cliff. They're 14th in yards per play, 30th in success rate. So will this Pittsburgh defense be able to make stops against this high-powered Clemson offense? Well, one thing we're learning about this Clemson offense is they might be a little more vulnerable than we thought. Remember, they started off the year, their opener was against Georgia. They looked terrible. They got beat by like 28 points or whatever it was. After that, they rattled off 6 or 7 straight games where they looked like the most unstoppable offense in college football. But now, if you look at their last 2 games, just 219.5 passing yards per game, 38.4% success rate per dropback, 5.15 yards per pass attempt. That was against Louisville and Virginia Tech. In the previous 6 games, you can see on the graphic, they were absolutely lighting it up, pretty much scoring on every goddamn drive. So the last 2 games against Louisville and Virginia Tech, we're seeing this Clemson passing attack look a bit vulnerable. Here are the Clemson passing numbers in their 4 games not at Clemson. They had 3 road games and then the neutral site game against Georgia. Just 232.8 passing yards per game, 6.5 yards per attempt, 42.3% success rate per dropback. The 4 games away from Clemson, it was 3 bad games from Klubnik and 1 great game, and the great game was against Wake Forest. In case you're not familiar with Wake Forest football, they don't play a lot of defense over there in Wake Forest. So I don't know if I trust Klubnik on the road here against, like I said, a Pitt defense that's been rock solid. Yes, SMU was able to put up a big number. They made a few huge plays through the air. 9.9 yards per pass attempt, 306 yards through the air. Just 37.5% success rate per dropback in that game. So yeah, SMU was able to score points against Pitt. But look at everyone else. 244.9 passing yards allowed per game, 38.4% success rate per dropback, under 6.8 yards per pass attempt. And specifically, look how this defense performs at home. On the season, at home in Pittsburgh, they're allowing just 22 points per game, success rate under 37%, just 4.25 yards per play. 230.8 passing yards allowed per game, 6.54 yards per pass attempt, success rate per dropback under 37%. Look at the opponents. Kent State, okay, there's Kent State in there, but West Virginia, Cal, Syracuse, Virginia, these are formidable offenses. In fact, a couple of them are pretty good. West Virginia's got a dominant rushing attack. Cal's got Mendoza. Syracuse has got McCord, one of the most dynamic passing attacks in the country. Virginia's got what the hell's his name? Costanza? What's his name? Virginia quarterback. Calandria, sorry. Virginia's got Calandria. That's a good passing offense. So it's not like they've seen nobody in these home games. And this Pittsburgh defense at home is a unit I trust. And if you're expecting Clemson to run the ball, I'm not sure about that. Pittsburgh allowing under 2.9 yards per carry this season, 37.2% success rate per rush, under 110 rushing yards allowed per game. And the Clemson rushing attack, yeah, it was looking dominant there. Look last week against Virginia Tech on the road, just 3.63 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 38%. So overall on this side of the ball, I know when we talk about the Pittsburgh offense, we've lost faith, and there's good reason for that. We're about to talk about that in a second. But when it comes to the Pitt defense, especially at home, I'm still a believer, and I think this Clemson offense might be a bit more vulnerable than we originally thought. I think Pitt's defense is able to give them some problems. Now, what about on the other side of the ball? Let's talk about the Pitt offense. And when we look at this graphic here, it might look like these two units are decently evenly matched. I mean, 51st in yards per play, 53rd in success rate for Pitt, 45th and 48th for the Clemson defense. You might look at this graphic and say, okay, Pitt's offense can compete with Clemson's defense. No, they can't. First of all, Clemson's defense, we've talked about this multiple times, these numbers are wildly skewed. They've had so many points scored on them in garbage time of games. NC State scored 28 points in the fourth quarter of a game where Clemson was up 7 scores. App State put 20 points on them in garbage time. There's been several games this year where Clemson gave up 20-plus points in garbage time of games when they were up big. So when we pull up a graphic like this here, you might look at the left side of this graphic and say, oh, this Clemson pass defense is vulnerable. See, these teams, they had good games throwing the ball in Clemson. The only one that applies to is Georgia. The NC State game, Clemson was up, I think, 40. And CJ Bailey came in, or CJ Bailey was already in. CJ Bailey, they drove down the field and scored 28 points. I mean, they still lost by 20 plus. It was completely in garbage time. Same goes for Virginia. They drove up and down the field twice in the fourth quarter to backdoor cover. The game was over. So NC State and Virginia saying, oh, they were able to throw the ball on Clemson's defense, that's not really an accurate depiction at all. And by the way, that elite passing attack that we saw from Holstein early in the season, I mean, it's fallen off a cliff. In their first 5 games, they were averaging almost 340 passing yards per game, success rate per dropback up close to 48%, over 9 yards per pass attempt. Look at their last 4 games. I mean, again, falling off a cliff. Under 200 passing yards per game, success rate per dropback under 38%, under 5.5 yards per pass attempt. So the success they were finding with Holstein early in the season has not been there. This Pitt passing attack is no longer much of a threat. And if you're thinking Pitt's going to run the ball in this game, I mean, look at the last 5 games. They're averaging under 4 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 38%, 117.2 rushing yards per game. Clemson, I mean, you don't run the ball in Clemson. They're allowing 3.34 yards per carry as a team in their last 5 games, just 85.4 rushing yards allowed per game. So Pitt probably not going to be able to run the ball either. And even if you are an Eli Holstein believer, even if you're a Pitt fan or you're like, Kyle, now this is the big game, Holstein's going to bounce back and get up for this one, keep in mind Clemson runs a ton of man coverage. They're actually 15th in the country in man coverage frequency. Holstein has done all of his damage against zone. In fact, his passing numbers against man coverage are absolutely terrible. So no, I very, very seriously doubt Holstein's going to be able to make throws in this game. I think it's a nightmare matchup for the Pittsburgh offense, which is why when it comes to betting this game, as much as I would love to take that plus 10.5 at home here, I don't trust Pitt to score any points. Unfortunately, I am a believer in this Pitt defense, and I think the Clemson offense might be a bit overvalued in a tough spot here. I think Pitt's defense is able to make stops. So as far as betting it, I would go under. Personally, I took the Pittsburgh team total under 21.5. I already bet that. That's what I took. Not mad at a full game total under either. But taking the Pitt team total under protects me against if Clemson just runs the score up, which we know they're capable of doing. So Pitt team total under 21.5. Let's do it. If you'd like to see all the bets I currently have open, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on Open Bets. You'll see all mine as well as everyone else on the staff here. Also, if you sign up to Sauce Network Plus, it comes with access to the Discord, and you can participate in the weekly betting league. $150 in one of these trophies go to the winner every single week. So if you're interested, head over to the website and sign up. Let's have ourselves a good one. Live show, 10 a.m. Eastern time, Saturday morning. We'll go through every single game on the board. We'll be live from 10 up to kickoff. That's Saturday morning. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Please remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you in the Discord.